Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is 10 a.m. and we will be calling to order the Regional Advisory Council meeting for Thursday, August 28th, 2025. Before we get started, Madam Chair, I'd like to call for a moment of silence for the death of the two children yesterday in this tragic episode, as well as the children and adults who were injured. So let's take a moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. As we get started, Madam Chair, we do have a quorum, and so I will turn the meeting over to you to begin the call to the introductions.
Great, thank you, Jody. Maybe the first thing we can do is have our members who are online.
And Jared, would you call out members who may be online?
So, Madam Chair, Director Barker, we do not have any voting members for online. I do want to introduce, we do have a member of our board of directors who is online, an alternate member of the board from Palmer Lake, that is Trustee Addis Jerka. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware that she is online, I'm sorry, I apologize, that Trustee Jerka is online, but everyone else is in person.
Yeah, again, another good attendance day, which is wonderful. Before we go on to our members here who are here introducing themselves, I'd like to introduce, and he's in our audience in the back there. His name is Daniel Keene, and he is going to be another member eventually when he goes through the whole process. He is the community outreach specialist at the Independence Center. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Independence Center, they deal with a lot of our folks who are handicapped in a variety of different ways. And so we used to have a member on our board, but on our RAC, but it's great to have him having them attend again. I think it's a community that can benefit from all the kinds of services that we have here as well. So thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so maybe we can start down at your end and we'll go around and everybody can introduce themselves.
Good morning. I'm Don Kowaleski. I'm out at Falcon, Colorado, representing the Eastern Plains.
Good morning, Bee Babbitt, representing Northern El Paso County.
Good morning, Laura Cronick, the Town of Monument.
Debbie Levin Stankiewicz, the chair of the Regional Advisory Committee, and I live in Colorado Springs.
Good morning, Jody Barker, Director of the Area Agency on Aging.
And good morning, I'm Clark Becker. I do live in Colorado Springs, but 36 years in Teller County, and I'm a member of the Teller Senior Coalition Board, so representing Teller County on the council.
I'm Sheila Williams, and I represent Park County. I live up in the Lake George area.
Great, thank you all. As those of you in the audience can see, we now have people on our RAC who are actually from Teller and Park County. So that's just wonderful because we have people who know those areas and can add a lot to our meetings. So thank you. So our number 2 here is our agenda approval. And I'm wondering if we can get a motion to accept the agenda for today.
I so move.
Do I have a second? Thank you. And then we can vote to accept it. Maybe those present can raise their hands. Great, thank you. And we're going to go down to consent items. And Jason, do we have anybody? Jared.
No, you're good. The only consent item we have is the minutes from the last council meeting.
Well, I think we're just going to have Dahlia.
No, that's
after. Oh, public comments. Okay, thank you. So I need a motion to accept.
I so move.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. And we will move on to public.
Still need a vote.
Oh, I'm not with it.
Details.
Yep,
Yeah, I still need to call for a vote.
let's call for a vote then. Those,
All in favor.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Great. And we'll move on to, I think, number 4.
So, Madam Chair, we do have Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging, one of our staff members, Dolly Moncada. She's our volunteer program manager and has requested a couple of minutes for public comment to share about her program. Dolly, please go ahead.
Good morning, RAC. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to share a few things in regards to the AAA's volunteer program. First and foremost, I just want to let RAC members know that we have put together, in partnership with the Security Fire Department, safety classes. We're calling this event Safety for Security in Wide Field. You may see some of our flyers out and about in security area so far, but we've put together some free classes. These will include a free 4-part fall prevention class through UC Health. We are also putting together 4 classes through the Pikes Peak Emergency Preparedness folks, and they will cover a variety of different topics, including things like what to do with your pet in an emergency, how to prepare for evacuation, and some other topics. Again, all of those classes are free. The fire department will be hosting us at Fire Department Station 4. I do have flyers available. I will happily share with RAC members who are interested in spreading the word about that. As part of those efforts, we are also going to be organizing volunteers to change out batteries in fire alarms and smoke detectors. We will also be donating replacement fire alarms and detectors for people who may need a brand new one. So those are in the works. Afterwards, we are also going to be promoting our holiday event, which we're going to be decorating the homes for older adults who sign up. We did this project last year and it was very much a success, a wonderful experience for the older adults as well as the volunteers. We're going to be doing that again this year. I also want to do a shout out for an outdoor chore program that the Area Agency on Aging is getting up off the ground. We went through last weekend and did 2 yards for some older folks. They were greatly appreciated, and we got the opportunity to work with volunteer students from Colorado College. So shout out to the great work that they did. And then last but not least, we are also going to be launching an additional campaign in order to fill some of the volunteer positions here in our office, including an information and assistance volunteer. So as you folks are out there networking, doing the good work that you all do, please keep these events in mind. My hope is that we can get the word out and get lots of participants for all of these different events. I will happily send an email out to folks who are interested in hearing more about these. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Dolly, I have one question. What would the information and assistance volunteers' responsibility, or what kinds of things would they be doing?
Wonderful. So they would really work as basically an admin support. So there would be manning our information and assistance phone line, directing calls to the staff members here in the agency, and keeping notes for our phone logs. We would also get them connected with resources that people are calling in for. And of course, delegating those calls if it's a little bit above just getting them connected with a program or service. We also use volunteers to help during the open enrollment season when SHIP is pretty packed with lots of callers calling about their Medicare questions. and making changes. So it's all in the realm of supporting the staff here in the office. The hours are very flexible. We are looking for a 4-hour commitment minimum, but we have lots of open availability for that opportunity for anybody who's interested.
Great, thank you. Laura?
Dolly, last year, and you mentioned this thankfully, there was an effort to do the holiday decorating. When do you plan to send out the flyers or make the information available? I'm one of those people that feels that the more often that it's out there and we can repeat the offer, that probably it'll be more successful. And I think last year I'll speak for myself, I was a little late in letting people know. So I want to let them know now.
And I would love to get that word out. I actually do have some material that I can email out in the form of a flyer. It's very basic, but it does have the directions for how an older adult can sign up, as well as a volunteer who's interested in signing up. It's the same flyer, so I can get that out. And of course, the sooner the better. I'm trying not to step on my own toes, having multiple events being promoted at once, but I am happy to share that with you. And we are attempting to do this earlier than last year. That was part of the feedback that I received from the first go around, which was, you're exactly right. Getting the word out even sooner will hopefully capture more interest, get more participants. So I will happily include that as well, a separate flyer for the holiday event.
Thank you.
Do you know how many people we served doing the holiday decorations last year?
Yes, I want to say that we did 10 homes.
Great.
Actually, my apologies. I think it was actually closer to 8 homes now that I'm thinking about it. We had 10 homes signed up originally, but ran into conflicts with 2 of the folks signed up, and then we were able to do 8 homes successfully.
Great. Well, hopefully starting earlier, we'll get more people interested in participating.
Absolutely. And now that I've been in communication with a lot of student volunteers, a lot of them have shown a great interest in doing the holiday event. So it's looking like we're going to have even more volunteers to participate. So we've got to get some older folks signed up.
Great.
Madam Chair,
Yes, B.
I just wanted to encourage others to consider volunteering for the information and assistance phone lines. I've been doing that every Monday morning for the last 10 years. And it's, number one, it's a wonderful way to learn about all the resources in the area. And then if you enjoy talking to seniors, that's an added benefit as well. So I just encourage people to apply.
Great, thank you, B. All right, if we don't have any more questions, we will.
There were no other public comment requests, so
No
we're
other,
ready to
okay.
go.
Okay.
But Madam Chair, if I can just, if anyone online who would like to provide public comment, you please use the raise hand function at this time. Anyone in the audience is welcome to go to the podium as well. But yeah, no, Dolly was the only one we had received in advance. I see no hands being raised, so I think we can move forward at your discretion.
Great, and we're up to number 5 there, and I don't think we have any action items
No, ma'am.
today.
No.
And so we'll move on to our information items, and A on there is our presentations, and I think Jason from Silver Key is our only presenter today. Thank you for attending.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Rack. Thanks for the opportunity to be able to present. And as I shared with Jared, I tried to send the PowerPoint, but we got a little bit of a challenge with that. So what was sent instead is a PDF of this. So forgive a little bit of the technology piece here. I don't know. Can you all see the screen and can you hear me okay? So I'm going to share with you a little bit that's a kind of different than maybe some of the RAC presentations before. Oftentimes when we come up here, we tell you a little bit about what the Silver Key system is doing. For the last several years, there's been a number of things that have been happening that have also affected PPACG and other systems in that technology needs to be accessible for individuals, as you know, and there's some Colorado legislation, Jared, that was being worked on to be able to move that forward. What happened is that Silver Key has also been moving forward to be able to make sure that our technology, our website, the way we connect is all accessible. There was something that happened during this time, though, that really gave a different kind of energy around what does it mean to have accessibility? What does that actually mean to engage people differently? And so what had happened from that is we realized that we really need person first language through our website. And so in doing so, over the next several months in December is when we will officially launch Silver Key's new website. But then what happened, we thought, one of the things that Silver Key has done for many, many years is celebrated people for sure. But we also solve issues. And when somebody calls for an issue, as Bea was saying, with the information and referral line over at PPACG, you solve issues. And Silver Key has been doing that for decades, 55 years we're celebrating. So when we get a call for somebody asking for utilities, or we get a call somebody asking for the support of our home delivered meals, all the things that PPACG is supporting, and then many things that PPACG doesn't support or the AAA doesn't support that we've got other contracts for. So we give ourselves a high five or pat on the back. Jason, you did a good job solving that issue. And it has been the way that the organization has been built all these years. But something has changed. What's changed is when this organization started 55 years ago, people were living to 65 and 70 was the age. 72 was the, if you made it to 72, Yahoo, you get the high five. Not anymore, right? Now, 100 plus is not uncommon. And with that, it started to change the way that we needed to think about Silver Key. What we needed to do is think about not solving the issue when somebody calls, but understanding the journey of aging. Because I think Jody and I, we went to a conference and there was a gentleman who presented that said that too many times organizations like us have been managing the aged. And it really resonated with me. What he said was, what about the journey of aging? Because aging now is extending 70, 80, 90, 100 years. And yet we know that there's a number of people in the 40, 50, 60 category that need the supports of Silver Key as well. So I really took that in, and actually Laura happens to be on our board as well. And I told Laura, I said, and the board, I no longer work for Silver Key. I said, I'm done. I know. And what had happened is I said, hold on, let me tell you what that means. What that means is I'm actually saying, I feel like I've got a brand new job. I feel like my role has changed in that 2 weeks ago, I had this idea that what if we weren't just solving those situations? That's important. But what if the new way that Silver Key grows and moves forward is to not solve issues, but understand a journey? And we did that, but not with intention. We did that as kind of a secondary. We're moving that to primary because the lifelong journey of aging deserves to be understood. And in doing so, there's a few things that I'm bringing forward. The Elderhood Project. The Elderhood Project, what's that? Our board was like, Jason, what are you doing? Changing the name of the organization? No! Brought to life by Silver Key. What this is, going back to the technology and the website that we're moving forward with, the Elderhood Project is going to be an additional piece that's available on our website. It's going to be a standalone, it's going to be a repository, a clearinghouse of stories of journeys. Not only of those that have changed the world because they've been so amazing in the way they've changed legislation or policy, or they bring new resource to a community. It's about understanding our community of the aging. The journey of aging. Those that will be able to tell stories that we may forget, that just living through not just COVID, this pandemic, the Spanish flu, living through the Depression, that's a story into itself. And there's many people that have that story. And so what the project of Elderhood is going to do is going to be a website, and we have the domain, the Elderhood Project, silverkey.org, and it will become active, and it will encapsulate stories from our communities. It'll be just stories. It won't be services. It won't be changing the name of Silver Key. It's going to be honoring people differently than what we have in the past. It's a cultural change for the community. Somebody in our board, on the Silver Key board, said, "You really believe that you're going to change the culture of aging?" And somebody else from the board said, "He kind of goes upstream when everything," so this is common for him. So I don't know where it's going to go, but I promise you this, we're not stopping with just addressing issues. We're going to honor the journey of aging. I've challenged our organization. I've challenged our board. Laura, am I saying this accurately and true? And we are going to be in the culture differently than what we were. That's the Elderhood Project. I'm going to bring you forward one more slide now. I'm not, maybe Jared will. Oh, so with that, part of some of the history. Yeah. Part of our history is really built off of one thing that's within our mission, engaging stakeholders. And that is within our mission. It's part of our mission statement. And what you may not know, because it's been a little bit in the news, B and I were just talking about our site that we have that just got, we just moved into Mountain Community Presbyterian Church. And I hope some of you go on the tour after this. But that only started what is an opportunity going forward, our journey, if you will. Our journey now is we are in the beautiful part of northern El Paso County with being here in Monument. And what's happened is that through the acquisitions of two organizations, both the, am I too loud for the, sorry, both for the community of Monument, Glen Eagle, Palmer Lake, Northern Colorado Springs. Now that we've got a presence up here, because we acquired Tri-Lake Silver Alliance and we also acquired Mountain Community Senior Services over the last several years, those are both organizations that really fit well into the organization's culture, what we were doing. Now that we have this combined entity up here, it is time that we own our journey differently. We have been so blessed to be part of District 38 for many years, to be able to host us at their at a modular over at the high school, and then after that into an elementary school called Grace Best Elementary. But we were notified we have to leave that place because they're going to have to demolish that school and rebuild or whatever they choose to do with that. So that was obviously like, what? We don't have a place in space anymore? That's not owning our journey. That's kind of following whatever wherever the path led, but not on our own terms. So in a random kind of way, through that engaging stakeholders, we opened up the conversation with the town of Monument. And Laura, sorry to keep picking on you, but you're also a representative of the town of Monument. So thank you for doing so. And through that, the mayor of Monument had shared, there might be something that one of the developers might be interested in helping to support you in creating a forever home. The reason why Classic Home is on the screen right now, Classic Homes has agreed to donate 2 acres of land in Monument Junction. Monument Junction, if you don't know, is right between Tri-Lakes YMCA and Whataburger. How odd is that? Whataburger and Tri-Lakes YMCA. So you couldn't have anything like 180 different between the two. But we're right in the middle of that is where this plot of land is. It's 2 acres right on Jackson Creek to be able to build out this opportunity to be able to bring forward. When I met with the Tri-Lakes individuals, when I met with the organization of Classic, I said, we have this need for an activity center for older adults. And they looked at me and they looked at each other and I said, and Monumental Impact, which is an organization that serves kids, is also needing to leave Grace Best Elementary. They kind of looked at each other and they said, we're not necessarily wanting to do something specific for a demographic. Instead, we want to do something for the community benefit. And they said, you've got Monumental Impact that's leaving. You've got the Silver Key system leaving out of Grace Best Elementary. Is there a way to be able to create a community center? I said, of course there is. Check. That was the first filter. Can we create a community center? The answer is yes. The second check was, how would you even run the operations? If we even found a way to donate land to you, could you continue the operations? Do you have that kind of operating model? And the good news is, the answer is kinda. We do, because we do the best we can with the resources we have. But one thing that's a little bit different, the decision that was made a while ago in our organization, is that our 2 thrift stores are what manage the resource for our thrifts for our activity centers to continue. So we've got 2 thrift stores. So please donate, buy, and can donate again and buy again, because those dollars are what we're using to manage the operations. The good news for Classic is that what they had already been aware of is that Habitat for Humanity uses the Restore program to be able to help. And if you haven't been to the Restore program, it's another kind of thrift. That's what they use to be able to bring the resource forward for the operations to build out some of the homes that different developers donate. So they were very familiar with the thrift store model being able to bring forward an opportunity to manage the operations. So our chief financial officer put together a pro forma around that. And now we've got check. We've got a way to manage the operational support going forward. Now, the third Uber issue is the big. I said to Jody, Jody, we got this donation. And he says, that's great, in the text. And he wrote back, and he said, what's next? And I think I wrote, and I have to raise 13 to 17 million. I think your response was, woof. Yes. So that is the third checkbox that I need to figure out how we're going to do. I'm confident we will. I am confident we will. But before that, I'm going to bring forward another slide here. If you wouldn't mind. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of where I am within Silver Key, where Silver Key is headed, how I think we're going to accomplish this mammoth goal, and be able to stand up an opportunity for a forever home for Silver Key and for the community to be able to benefit for multi-generations. The woman that's on the page there is a rendering of my great-grandmother, who she and I used to take the Silver Key bus together. You've heard me tell that story a dozen times. We went on that bus, and that's how I got started at Silver Key. But what had happened is I did something a little bit kind of different here. That is not actually the picture of my grandmother. What I did is I fed it into ChatGPT. I said, ChatGPT, give me a way to illustrate, a way to bring forward a different conversation with the community. Because when we think about intergenerational programming, that monumental impact, the community benefits, and Silver Key benefits, what kind of picture would you give me using the framework of my great-grandmother, who I love dearly? And what happened is, I said one other thing. If you're not familiar with alchemy, Silver Key had a branding expert come in to evaluate our organization, and they gave us all these cards, and they said, pick the card and we pick all the cards, and we're like, not us, not us, not us. And I picked the card alchemy. And they said, no nonprofit, no business that we've ever worked with has chosen that card to be the designee, the archetype of an organization. And I said, the reason why we're the alchemist is we take the value and the support of over 500 volunteers, and we bring minimal amount of dollars relative to some of the big nonprofits that are out there. And we convert that, like the alchemist who takes chemicals and creates medicine, who takes raw iron and creates gold. We take volunteerism, donations, and smaller contracts, and we create life, the journey of life of aging. We are the alchemist. And that was the archetype that we selected. So in ChatGPT, I said, and we want to be an alchemist. I thought I would stump ChatGPT. Apparently I didn't. And so Grandma Al is the one that I'm using as a framework as I brought forward this way to be able to engage the students. Grandma Al is for Grandma Alchemist. The students of the community at large, and the framework to hold the history of the journey of aging. So Grandma Al brings us to the next slide. Maybe. Oh.
Just on a delay. But yeah.
Okay. So what this is that we have worked in partnership with the University of Colorado, Denver, and Nunn Construction, and also the town of Monument in putting together a way to be able to do the rendering of what this is going to be. So if you can envision for a minute being over on driving past Tri-Lakes, YMCA, going over to Whataburger, and you look to the left as you're driving down, you're going to see this. Silver Key Community Center, where aging is all of us. And as my grandma Al would say, now some folks think getting older means getting smaller. Not me. Around here, we grow bigger in heart and purpose and what we give back. And the new center, well, it's where the magic will happen. So Grandma Al is endorsing what I'm doing. That's good. Silver Key believes aging is all of us, and the center will serve as Monument's first true intergenerational community hub. Not only Monuments, but the Tri-Lakes area. It will be an iconic place that 20 years, 30 years from now, somebody's going to say, remember when? And that will be part of the Elderhood Project, hopefully 20 or 30 years. Next slide. Wait for it. Yay, there it is. Okay, so what that is, this is the view, the vista of what we would be looking like from the top. And so this, if you go over there, it is a little breakout. And I love what Grandma Al says about this. Kind of like a hug, only with more parking spaces. So with this, Grandma Al says, what we would do is we're going to have 90 parking spaces up here. And what we will also do is we are right now at the church. For those that go on the tour today, you're going to see that the parking spaces are large. What we're doing is we're positioning for this eventual having it to be a transportation hub. Because one of the key factors that we have in our organization is make sure that people can get to their medical appointments. When you're up in Glen Eagle, when you're up in Palmer Lake, when you're even in south part of Douglas County, it's difficult because many of the healthcare systems are south of Northgate, south of Interquest. So you may get some primary specialized care up here, but you have to get all the way down there. And if we really are engaging that people want to be able to stay living at home with quality of life for the long haul, transportation is the solution. And there's other parts of our community that will be able to benefit from our transportation. Right now, I've already talked with Tri-Lakes Cares that maybe we can do something with when we have a little less capacity, but we have more capacity than utilization up here, that maybe we would be able to bring some of their customers to their organization. So we start to bridge a community solution out of this iconic way for people to be part of an aging journey. Not managing the aged. Next slide. So this would be, if you've been to the Ent Center, the concept here, the Ent Center for Arts is where it's this avenue of you come in and you're greeted. So this is, we're not the Ent Center, but we're kind of like that in that we have this aging place for people to be able to come in. And the aging place, if you think about childhood, adulthood, elderhood, any one of those categories will be engaged as this first point of contact. Next slide. I'm saying it sooner because it takes a while to get caught up. And right there. So this is really the start kind of bland. This is the 250-seat auditorium that'll be retractable seats. Okay, so that'll be the first part. Oh, I just want to say, Grandma Al says, which means one day it's waltzing with line dancing crew, and the next day is full teenagers building robots, and I plan to be cheering for both as a ChatGPT kind of avatar. But anyway, before we move forward, just real quick, that's fine to move forward. One of the things I want to share with you about this is the other piece that's important to share is that this really can be nimble to be able to provide support across the lifespan, meaning that that's why they're retractable. That's why we will be able to use that space differently. And B, I so appreciated that you mentioned the article in the newspaper when that picture of the line dancing, the open house that we had, it was so fun. We had all these people line dancing. The energy was amazing in the room. And then we gave the announcement that this was where we're headed with Classic Homes. Next slide. So this would be also where we can do lecture series. So some of the things that can happen is frequently the faith community, the churches support this here in the Tri-Lakes area, but there's no real true meeting space for training and education. That is why this is a community center. The other thing I'll share with you is that one of the people from OCN, what does that stand for? Our community news is doing a report on this. And he called me and he said, you know, Jason, I went to your open house. That was amazing. I walked out before your presentation on this. And he said, but I just picked up on something now that you and I've talked. He said, why is it? No, he said when he left the open house, he said to himself, why is it that they called it Tri-Lakes Activity Center? He goes, aren't you a senior center? And I said, well, let me tell you, this is where we're headed. Our journey is aging. And with that, activity positions for community. Because the journey of aging doesn't start at 60. It doesn't start at 40. It starts when we're born. And I said, so the framing is the branding of the community. He's like, I'm in, I got it. I think I can even write about that. So we'll see where he goes with that because the story's like supposed to come out. But that was the first entry point to rethink differently about what the journey of aging is, starting with this opportunity here in the Tri-Lakes area. Next slide, please. So the next slide demonstrates that with this, if any of you have not Googled at this point or ever seen the robot competitions, go to YouTube. It is fascinating. These students that are building these robots and they compete with each other. I don't know what they're competing for, but it's just amazing what they do. And what we will be able to do is with Monumental Impact, which is an organization that supports kiddos in the STEM program, the science, technology, engineering, math program of high school. Ironically, when they got moved out of D38, like Silver Key got moved out of 38, it created an avenue for us to open up conversation. This is what happened with that. The mentors for the kiddos that they provide support to STEM, guess who these folks are? Older adults who had careers who are very, very capable of bringing new purpose of what they had to these kids. It made perfect sense for us to come together. In fact, I said, we're going to bring all the Monumental Impact people to be our new volunteers. They're like, yahoo! Okay, so we'll see where that all goes. But the reality is all those Monumental Impact students have been mentoring and supported by older adults. It truly is an example of where we're headed for our future. Next slide. Oh, darn, there's my 20 minutes. Good thing nobody else. Oh no, 5-minute notice. so Debbie, I'm good. Okay. The other thing about this place is that there is no place here in this area to be able to actually have receptions outside of being exceedingly creative. There are some actual places that are specific around this, but not from a community center kind of model. So we will be able to have receptions here, other kind of celebrations. And again, 10, 20, 30 years from now, I hope that if we accomplish our goal, somebody who lives in San Francisco 30 years from now, a kiddo who's in high tech making change in the world says, I remember when I was in Tri-Lakes at the community center where I celebrated my life with my new wife or my new husband, whatever the case may be. This would be a place that's going to create not only memories for the future, it's going to create sustainability for this community to remain committed, even when people leave and hopefully when they come back. Next slide. So this is one part. There's 3 sections of this building that kind of outline what will happen with the services of Silver Key. We will have one of our cafes. We will have the Mahjong. Believe me, the Mahjong group that's a big deal. We will have weight training. We will have the line dancing, and there's 3 different spaces in the first floor of this building to have this available. Grandma Al says, I'm telling you right now, the Mahjong table is where the real negotiations happen. And trust me, I've learned that. So anyway, that is where that's one sample of the 3 parts of the building. Next one, please. So the Monumental Impact at this point, the concept is that they would be on the 2nd floor. And what that will be is an arrangement that you'll have this bullpen kind of arrangement where our seniors that have had strong, prominent business in science, technology, engineering, math will be supporting these kids that are going from D38 or District 20 or south side of Douglas County. And what they'll be doing is they're applying the academics to real life. They'll have an avenue to bridge the two. It makes the student stronger. It gives purpose in life to those that are supporting, and it builds a community connection differently. That is the spirit of a community center. And we will be able to have individual mentoring in the smaller rooms on the side. Next slide, please. This is a beautiful rendering of what's going to happen in the evenings when we invite. Okay, so we're not the Ford Center or all that. We're not that. I'm humble enough to know that. But I think we can be an attractive site for some really intimate ways to be able to have theater, have the arts, have different ways to be able to present. And I think it'll be a magnet, and I think that it'll be what the community can be proud of for decades going forward. Graham Al says, I've lived long enough to see how communities rise. It's always when they invest in each other. This building is our promise to do just that. Silver Key is, if you've been to our fundraising events, Silver Key is starting to build it together. Next slide. In building it together, these are the entities that have been part of it thus far. We've got Silver Key, we've got Monumental Impact, Classic Homes, CU, I'm sorry, University of Colorado, Denver, their architect students, Nunn Construction, the Town of Monument. These are the entities that even positioned us to the point of where we can go to Classic Homes and actually share a vision that's more than a vision, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity, and they took it in and they said, we're going to invest in that. Now, what I need to do to Jody's woof, it's raised from the low to the high. And so with that, what we're looking to do is really expand on dollars that we've already been able to raise. We have $100,000, actually $110,000 raised at this point to be able to stand up. Now, that may seem like a pebble in the lake. One of the things, B, that I remember that when you and I first talked, and I'm so grateful to you, because there were two things that helped Silver Key move its affordable housing project forward. One is that we certainly had the support, that we had the land already, and that we had the support of the Pikes Peak Real Estate Fund. But more than that, we had two other things. We had the RISE Coalition that had voice from the community that said this is needed, and we had investors, and you were one of our investors to be able to say this is an important piece. I'm so grateful to you, B, because I've told that story over and over again to the people who were able to make decisions, and the fact that we had people that were investing to be able to help us get there, I'm grateful for that. So thank you. And that really did set us on the stage. I am confident we can do this, or I live in ignorant bliss, one of the two. So I'm not sure. But I really do believe that if we get the community excited about this, right, if we get the community understanding about the multi-generational, intergenerational impacts of something like this, and if we truly can get people involved, this is doable in this area. And quite frankly, the people that we serve in this community deserve it. Next slide. So the Elderhood Project is brought to life by Silver Key. That's in the next several months on that website. That's who I am. What questions do you have of me? Like what?
Thank you so much, Jason. Yeah, this is just really exciting to see the intergenerational, but also seeing the aging focus as well. So that obviously very delicate balance there, and really exciting to see something like this in this community. Do you have an idea of timeline for the fundraising, and then potential future groundbreaking and timeline for the life?
Good question, Jody. So what happened is that we're engaging a consultant right now that's going to help us with the capital campaign. At this point, I've shared this a couple different times with different people. So what happens is that he's assessed right now, his organization's assessed the community, the larger community of El Paso County, this opportunity. And he said, right now, with what support you have an opportunity to be able to accomplish this probably in 3 years in the capital raise. And then from that, the build out will be the last 2 years following, is what the early part of that is. Now, there's a couple things that he said are caveats to that. There's some key partners that if you can engage early on, then you'll be able to move that 3 years up. Part of the engagement would be out of the county to be able to see if we can get the county excited about this. That would be a help. To be able to see if all the surrounding townships could be involved with this, that would be a help. And then from there, the community members, as like I shared with B, to be able to get maybe some smaller donors towards this, and then to be able to see if there's a naming convention with a larger donor that might be interested in having the naming rights, like Ford Amphitheater or the Ent Center, to see if we would be able to engage that. All of that will reduce that time frame. So kind of like the 13 to 17. 17 is 5 years out. 13 is probably, this isn't the best. Let me scratch that, reverse it. So what it is that It could be less than 4 years if we can get some of these pieces and parts to mature. Otherwise, it's probably 5 years. Or just so you know, it's a dream and not an action, because it may be that the realities come to play, that this is a big lift for our community. It's a big lift for our county. It's a big lift for Silver Key. All of these pieces or parts are important. But again, through my ignorant bliss, and I just remain hopeful and I remain steadfast that this can be. I don't see it any other way. People tell me all the time, well, what if? And I say, well, what if not? And why not us? That's the other thing, because that's the other question sometimes, to say, why Silver Key? Well, why not us? So Jody, that's a long answer to a very complicated question, but that's really what the time frame is that he said, and we're going to get a little bit more formalized in that process very soon. Just so you know that there'll be some additional communication going out in the newspapers and some other avenues that we have just to get the word out, get a read from people. Hopefully they're interested.
Thank you so much. As many of you know, I'm a former senior center director, and anytime we can engage our older adults to activities and working with one another, and ultimately even, in this case, community wide, not just older adults with older adults. I think there's a lot to be said for that intergenerational aspect. So I'm excited both personally and professionally. So thank you very much. We look forward to hearing more on the project.
And Jason, I have 2 pieces of information which might be helpful for you. So I lived in Albuquerque for many years, and while they have some very small senior centers in their outlying towns, the city of Albuquerque has 2 huge intergenerational centers. And I mean, I don't know if all of the funding comes from the city, but you may want to contact them. And in terms of the STEM stuff, you might want to contact AAUW, American Association of University Women, here, because we run a STEM day.
Okay.
On an annual basis. It's held, I think, in a high school nearby. And when I was down in Albuquerque, they actually have a STEM camp that they do for a week at one of the university centers. But they may have a lot of information for you that might be helpful in that STEM field.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I will follow up. And right now we do have a strong supporter out of New Mexico for some of our day-to-day operations. So I'm going to be connecting with that family and see if they might have an interest in this as well. So I will definitely bring that forward.
I was surprised when I moved here that they didn't have, because this, Albuquerque is bigger. It's about 800,000. But I was surprised that they didn't have any intergenerational centers here like they did in Albuquerque. I mean, these facilities are so busy all the time. Maybe they have 3 actually, but they were really wonderful facilities.
Definitely get in touch with them, with both of them. Thank you for those leads, Debbie, Madam Chair.
Jason,
Yes, B.
in your planning, have you thought about a place for, excuse me, for older and younger individuals to jam together musically?
Yep, that will be on the main floor of the auditorium. So yes, that is absolutely part of the planning. It'll have enough storage for instruments and that type of thing. And just so you know, down south, our guitar training course that we have at that part, in our South Activity Center, we need guitars, by the way. If anybody has some of them sitting in your, in your garage, or we will use them, because that's exactly one of the things that's important, is music and the arts. Thank you.
It's just, from my point of view, it's just such an exciting development up here, living up here for 10 years or more. Just the notion, I mean, I watched it move from the high school, to over here, and now your temporary quarters. If this gets built, I'm really excited about it. And I think we can help generate some enthusiasm, right, Laura?
B, I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And I think it's great that you start small, but maybe Colorado Springs will begin to think about that kind of a piece more so than just.
I love that you said that. We'll see where we go. We'll see what our journey is. And yeah, we'll see what the journey leads to.
Well, and in addition to the monumental impact part of it, there's a little bit of a gap between monumental impact and seniors. That gap is already being filled by the robotics piece. And you're right. If anybody ever has an opportunity to see what these kids do and the competition, it's mind blowing.
Yeah. Well, and that gap in between, Lori, as you're talking about, so so the word is getting out, just so you know, because the Children's Literacy Center had connected with us about. I'm like, there's nothing yet. It's a plot of land. And also the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, it was mentioned that they probably would want to be involved with this. So things are starting to take root in different ways. I mean, at least if we can at least dream it, then we can make it action. So you're right. There is that gap in the middle that we have not yet fully done, both in the robotics area, but also just in community generally. So I think we haven't really tapped in yet where those opportunities are, Laura. Thank you.
And let me piggyback on that. I think there has been a gap in utilizing the talents of our retirees. I just think you retire, you have so many skills, and yet most volunteer positions take you way below your skill level. So if somehow, I mean, I see this robotics program as, hey, that's using people's skills that they had while they worked. And so if we can think along those lines as well in your notion of this elderhood project, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, the journey of life is one of the things that's culturally changing right now. Be that what happens is that when somebody is 60 years old or 65 years old or 70 planning for retirement, in the past, in the not so recent past, the thought was, okay, I'm going to retire and relax. The problem with that is, or the upside to that is, people are living 10, 20, 30 years past that. So to find purpose in life, it is a very important piece to be able to manage health and wellness, because if you don't find purpose, then you decay. You know, I said frequently with our nutrition program that we're so grateful for all the support from this committee and other community supports. You know, food is medicine, and the alternative is decay and dying without quality food. It's the same thing with purpose. If you don't have a purposeful living, then you decay and die because you aren't contributing. You're not part of. It is very much what you're saying, B. We've got to continue the Elderhood Project and others to be able to bring that opportunity for whatever that next generation of life is. It has value, it means something, and it brings opportunity going forward. I could keep talking, as you know, Debbie, so you shut me off whenever you're ready. Anything else?
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Actually, I have one more comment, and that is to Addis, Durica, who's on the phone or listening in. He's on the Palmer Lake Board of Trustees, and I'm really glad to see him here because Palmer Lake is part of Tri-Lakes.
Yes.
Let's get there.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Great presentation. All right, we will move on here to 6B, Membership Committee, and I don't think even Jen is in online or anything, but I don't think we have anything new.
No new information.
I did introduce Daniel, and hopefully he will be a new person who participates in our RAC. We'll go to C, which is the Strategic Review Committee, Laura.
We have not met. We will be doing so soon. Hopefully we'll have a report next meeting.
Great, thank you. And then D is the Technical Review Subcommittee. Gordon is not here, but I don't think we have anything new at this point. We will have some things coming up, but we don't.
I'll give a highlight in with my report.
Okay, well, we'll then move on to the director's report.
Well, there we go.
Go ahead, Jody.
Transition.
So I'll start with that first. The TRS is the Technical Review Subcommittee. They are the subcommittee of the Regional Advisory Council that help provide additional input to staff recommendations for overall funding. And so with that coming up, I will share that we will be calling for TRS members to join the staff later this fall. We do anticipate the RFP process, that's a request for proposal process, to be made public mid-September. that will go out to the public and as well as directly to current providers, contracted providers, and with all provided required readings, schedule of the trainings and that kind of thing that are required under the Older Americans Act to participate in this funding request for proposal process. As such, there is something also that I want to make the RAC members aware of, is a change in the Older Americans Act rule changing that is currently in process. And that is related to conflicts of interest. And so we will be updating that process because it is there is very, very specific language related to members of the Regional Advisory Council, staff, or Board of Directors members related to the review of requests for proposals and ultimately funding authorization. So we will be working through that process, updating that process, and we will bring you more specific updates once we have that nailed down. We will have to update our process. In the past, it's been just a declaration to say I may have a conflict of interest, but it now requires a few extra steps. Not complicated. I do it every year for my national board with U.S. Aging, my national board position. It's fairly simple process, but it is and will be a new process for us here within the Area Agency on Aging and the Regional Advisory Council. So more to come on that. Sorry to leave you with a teaser there, but we have to work out all the details for that. Couple things I did want to share also is at last month's, actually I say last month's, earlier this month, the August PPACG Board of Directors meeting, I did have opportunity to share how we managed the overall funding allocations for this second year of our contract period. As you know, we work on a 2-year contract period with the second year allocations being distributed by option letter versus an entire new contract process. The goal when we started that several years ago was to reduce the administrative burden on our both our providers as well as internal staff, because there's a lot going on at that same time. And so we saw this as an opportunity to reduce some of that burden. This year, our overall funding was reduced. And so we are operating just under $104,000 less this fiscal year than we were last fiscal year. So what does that mean? What did that mean for our providers? You may recall the updates I provided early in the year where the State Union on Aging requested that we reduce our overall budgeting by to 75% of past budgets. We did that. It was a big ask and a big lift by our providers. And so we have thanked them every opportunity as we've had discussions. The State Union on Aging was able to reconcile and true up our overall contract, because we do receive our contract on an annual basis. They were able to true up to that amount, last year's amount, less $104,000. And we in turn were able to very quickly issue contract amendments through the option letter process with our providers. We brought them to flat funding for this year, despite the reduction in overall funding. What that means is that the Area Agency on Aging programs took the overall budget adjustment hit. We will do a makeup with that funding through the carryover process later this fall. Many conversations, including conversations that Jason and I had, as well as with other providers, the planning that they would have to do if they had reduced funding would really impact direct services, direct staffing, and direct and overall service provision. So we opted to move those funds to providers so that that they could remain at least flat, even though we knew we're not going to, the likelihood of increased funding was very, very slim, but at least we could keep them flat so that they could plan their fiscal year. Again, AAA, my staff and my programs that we offer directly out of our office have been adjusted to represent that lower allocation. And like I said, we will make up for that in the carryover process, which will happen later this fall. So we've done that to help our providers at least maintain that flat funding. Through that process, I was able to make that kind of full circle presentation with our board of directors early in August, and everyone was positive. Those who provided remarks and comments, very positive in that. So the RFP process is coming up because we don't actually receive our allocation awards until very late in the spring. We will be working from this current year's fiscal allocation as our point of planning. And then when we receive those final allocations, we'll be making adjustments accordingly. So more to come on that. I do want to share that tomorrow, for those of you who may not be aware, tomorrow morning from 10 to 2 is the ribbon cutting and open house at the new Colorado Springs Senior Center. And so, since Jason, I'm going to keep pointing to you, but there's a great partnership between Silver Key and the Colorado Springs Senior Center through the congregate meal program. The Connections Cafe does serve meals there, and will continue or resume serving meals at the new site. So we're very excited that we love it when we see interaction and collaboration between our contracted providers. And this is a great example of that. Silver Key also provides transportation to and from the senior center as well. That will resume. And so if you're not familiar with that location, that's at 1514 North Hancock Avenue. It's just on the south border of the Patty Jewett Golf Course. So if you would like to be there, I believe the mayor's remarks and others' remarks will start right at 10 o'clock, and then a ribbon cutting, and then 10:30 to 2 will be open house style with tours of the new building. So
tables, right? Some organizations will have tables.
Correct. There will be information and resource tables all throughout the center during the open house. We will have it. Area Agency on Aging will have a table. I would imagine Silver Key will have a table. And so some of you have already signed up to participate and hang out with our staff at the resource table. But there's no, I think we're covered. So this is an open invitation just to come. You don't have to work. So we'd love to have you there to see the new center. I got to take the hard hat tour back in June, and it was truly that. It was hard hat with concrete floors and drywall walls. So I'm very excited to see what it's going to look like. As I mentioned, I'm a former senior center director there, and so we will also be recognizing past senior center directors once we're inside. Tom Lathrop, the current director, will be sharing a few remarks there as well. So I just want to encourage everyone to be as engaged as possible with these opportunities in the community. It's really a long time coming to have a new center with expanded square footage, better parking, easy accessibility. And so we're really excited for what that's going to look like. Unless there are questions, I am complete in my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jody. No more questions. We'll move on to our new area here that we're discussing for our RAC, which is our legislative update. And Jared will give us that information.
Good morning, Regional Advisory Council members. Jared Werner, Public Policy and Communications at PPACG. Before I get started, I just want to thank Councilmember Cronick and everyone, and especially Will Williams with the Town and Monument staff for allowing us to host this meeting up here this morning. It has been nothing but smooth and accommodating and just generally awesome, if I'm just going to be blunt and honest about it. So thank you, Laura, for arranging and for getting us up here and for everyone for attending in person today. Okay, so let's dive into legislative. So I'll start with federal because that's going to be the quicker of the two. No new significant updates since our last meeting that we held up in Fair Play. The biggest thing was the board of directors did adopt a support position a couple weeks ago on Senate Bill 2120, which is the Older Americans Act Reauthorization Act of 2025. No big surprise there. The board had taken a support position when this bill was in the last session, last congressional session, which ended up not making it through the process. But this support position just allows us to be better advocates as this bill works through the process. Congress reconvenes next week after being on recess this month. The big focus on that we're looking at from the policy perspective is the appropriations process, just because they got to figure out some way to fund the government by September 30th. Whether that is another continuing resolution, I'd say that's probably the betting lines, if you will, so far in that. There have been there's 12 appropriations bills that need to make its way through the Senate. In a somewhat unusual move is kind of moving first in this. They've passed a couple before they've recessed in July. We're not expecting any significant changes for the appropriations process, but just kind of keeping an eye on that. Any questions on federal before I dive into state? Because that's going to be a little bigger discussion. Okay, seeing none. So the last time we met on the Regional Advisory Council, you can go back in the recording. I was like, I don't know why there would need to be a special session. I'm not seeing anything that would require a special session. And the special session ended Tuesday. So a lot has changed since I made those comments in July. But I'm going to start from the beginning just to give everyone kind of a summary of what has happened in the last month and what's going to happen today and in the future months. So in late July, 2 state budget offices, so the executive branch, the legislative branch, both have budget offices that do forecasting. They both presented to the Legislative Council in late July on the tax revenue impacts of HR 1. HR 1, a lot of the discussion before it was signed was on expenses in terms of what could be the expense hit to the state of Colorado. Whereas this budget update in late July was focused on these tax revenue impacts. Colorado is one of a handful of states where the state tax code relatively mirrors the federal tax code. And so whenever the federal tax code changes, that impacts what the state revenue looks like. At the time, that was going to be roughly a $950 million impact to the current fiscal year, the one that we are in right now. Based on that presentation, the governor ultimately called a special session, which, as I said, concluded Tuesday afternoon. Once they got into the special session, that 950 million figure had come down to closer to 750, 800, kind of depending on who you talk to. And the state General Assembly addressed 3 main mechanisms for addressing that shortfall. One of them is reserves. So the state is required to have a 15% reserve balance to be able to handle any kind of changes, kind of like this, but not really a policy change like we saw with HR 1. That reserve is really built for any kind of economic changes, macroeconomic changes. I will say both the executive and legislative budget offices are still forecasting some sort of economic recession. And that's what that reserve is built for. It's really not built for a policy change like HR 1. However, the General Assembly did authorize tapping into that reserve account. That's the reserve, that 3% roughly, that 15% roughly equates to about $2.3 billion. And so the state could have taken everything that we saw straight from reserves, but neither party and neither branch really wanted to do that for that. So they're roughly going to dip about $325 million into the state reserves to be able to cover the roughly 750 to 800 million. So that's one of the 3 mechanisms. The third one is revenue increases. The General Assembly ended up passing about 5 bills that would kind of change the tax code a little bit to get them roughly $250 million. I could look up what those were, but I'm by no means a tax expert. I just know what the end result was. Don't ask me to explain the specifics because I can't. But the bigger one that we're looking at is the budget reductions. And so the General Assembly did not specify how those budget reductions would take place. That just said the governor, it's on you to cut the budget as we need it. And it's looking like a $252 million budget reduction is what the state will be doing for this current fiscal year. The state has already implemented a hiring freeze that took effect this week, and that will run through the rest of this calendar year. There are exemptions to that hiring freeze, for example, public safety, for example, CDOT snowplow drivers are exempted from that. And so there are exceptions to that, but for the most part, you have to have a really good reason to hire someone between now and the end of the year from the state side. This morning, and so literally about 50 minutes ago, I started getting alerts. And so the governor did make announcements this morning on how he plans to cut that $250 million. About 40 million is going to come from the state will not increase reimbursement rates for healthcare providers who see Medicare recipients. That's going to save the state roughly, I said, about $38 million. And I apologize because I usually don't rely on news reports. I like to see the actual stuff, but I am relying on news reports for this update at the moment. The remainder of that $250 million is going to come from higher education. They're going to get about $12 million hit as part of this. And then the remainder appears to be coming through grants, but I don't know the specifics on what those grants look like. The reporting I've seen so far this morning have been about 20 budget lines would be impacted through that grants. And so just awareness, we are expecting to get more information later this afternoon when the Joint Budget Committee meets at 1:30 p.m. And let me refresh again because I have been trying to see if they have posted and they have still not posted those specifics. So we'll find out more this afternoon in terms of what that actually looks like. The requirement is that the governor is tasked with making those cuts and then reporting to the Joint Budget Committee what those cuts are. The Joint Budget Committee does not have any kind of, not even a rubber stamp authority on this. It's just the governor will notify the JBC what cuts will be made. So that's it in terms of gets us essentially through today. The next big date on the state budget process we're looking at will be September 22nd. That's when the next quarterly revenue estimates will come out from both the executive and legislative budget offices. That's important because that will be what the governor uses to create his budget request, which is due to the Joint Budget Committee on November 1st. Kind of looking ahead to next year a little bit, the last budget forecast in June forecast about a $600 million shortfall for the next fiscal year that starts in July 1 of 26. That $600 million shortfall did not include any of the impacts of HR 1. And so any kind of Medicaid changes, any kind of SNAP changes, those kinds of things would be reflected in this next budget forecast in September. And so we're going to be looking forward to that just to kind of see what exactly we're looking at in terms of potential expenses that the state will be looking at. I say that, and I just want to report from what our lobbying team at the state capitals is telling us for the State Fund for Senior Services, which is what we look at very closely, especially when we're providing funds to our contract providers. And we're very fortunate. We have two lobbyists who work for the same firm. One of them worked for Joint Budget Committee for years and years and years. So he knows how this process works and still has good contacts with the staff there. They are confident the State Fund for Senior Services is relatively protected. If it gets to that point, there's going to be a lot of stuff that happens before they touch the State Fund for Senior Services. The reason for that is because the State Fund for Senior Services is essentially the exact same as it was in the 2018-19 year, roughly $16-17 million. When you look at everything, and this is coming from the Colorado Fiscal Institute actually put out a report called The Cost of Aging in Colorado earlier this month. which was kind of comparing the growth of various aging funds over the last roughly decade. And they looked at the state fund for senior services, and it hasn't been grown. So if you're looking at the line items that have grown at the state budget in the last 10 years, the state fund for senior services is not accounting for the growth in the state budget at all. And so that's why they're confident that when push comes to shove, the state fund for senior services is relatively protected. The line item is not going to get you to $600 million. And so you're going to be looking at some of those bigger items, your education. Like as I said, higher education is expected to get a big hit today. And so you're looking at some other items, but we're confident senior fund for senior services is not going to be one of those. Obviously, a lot of things can change between now and CNADA next May. But that's kind of what we're hearing so far from the state. So a lot in there. But that's kind of where we are today. Happy to answer any questions. I'm looking at Joe to see if he has anything he wants to add so far on that.
Thank you, Jared. That was a great update. So you all know, in that approximately 104,000 that dropped overall, that was a blend of federal and state funding. Our state fund for senior services for us specifically in our region, 3 counties, increased by just a little over $5,000. The net decrease overall was from a drop in federal funding. The decrease, that additional $5,000 this year over last year was really related to updates in the census data, as well as the updated home harmless bill, which allows for minimal changes within the overall year-to-year funding allocations. And so Region 4 was somewhat spared at the state level with enough funding to, provide transportation for a week. That was if that. So really none. So our overall net funding this year was definitely that drop. But the general consensus that we're seeing across all of our connections related to the funding allocations, including those from our lobbying group, but others across the state, are that our fund is so small to begin with that, to Jared's point, we are relatively safe at this point, but it is difficult and dangerous to say that, really, because at the end of the day, everything is fair game. But we cross our fingers and hope that we will fly under the radar this time around. Thank you, Jared.
Question?
Jared, do you know if the senior homestead exemption will stay in place?
That is a great question. And I think we're going to find out a lot more on September 22nd. And so the way it works now is that comes from Tabor refunds. Right now, the state has not anticipated to see those at this moment. There is discussion and crossing over to the Commission on Aging side a little bit of trying to kind of protect that senior homestead exemption and not make it subject to kind of the tax credit process that a lot of the Tabor refunds that the state has chosen to use in the last couple of years. And so I think right now, yes, it was interesting. The last budget forecast in June was conflicted on that particular item. One, I can't remember if it was the executive or the legislative branch. One said that because of the shortfalls next year that they would not be able to fully fund the senior homestead exemption. The other one was saying yes. So we'll find out more probably in a couple weeks with more clarity.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And if I may, I'll add to that. So Jared alluded to the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging, another one of our committees within the Area Agency on Aging. They drew up a white paper which was approved by the board of directors in the August meeting to use as a piece of education to legislators and others. So if you would like a copy of that, Jared, I know that would be within the minutes of the last meeting, but if you'd like a direct copy of that, you can reach out to Jared or myself, or we'll just make a note and ask Melissa to send that to the entire board. But you can see that language that has been approved by the PPACG Board of Directors, so that we may act in a proactive way versus a reactive way. So just know that the Commission on Aging members are stepping into the policy realm, which is very exciting because that's one of the key areas we had hoped that they would be able to help us with. And so they have begun to do that.
And if I remember correctly, reading that, it showed that the decrease for some people would be so significant that they probably would not be able to stay in their homes because of the increase in their taxes. So I think that's really important piece. I just have one other question. I don't know if Jared or Jody, can you tell me that $100,000 that you're talking about, what percentage of our budget that is?
Sure, that represents 1.73% drop in our overall funding from last year to this year. As I mentioned, we were asked to reduce the budget by 25% because the 75% is the maximum the state could cover under contract related to the average of the previous 3 years of federal funding. And so they used that 25% as our guide, and our overall drop, fortunately, was the 1.73%.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you, Jared. I'll go on with my RAC chair report, and I want to go. It looks like we really dodged a bullet with that only 1.7%, even though, of course, our senior population keeps growing. That reduction is fantastic compared to what other places may see. And that's the primary piece of my chair report. It looks like it's going to be a good year. And hopefully, I don't know what's going to happen with that 600 million, but hopefully we'll come out well. We'll come out again as well. And I don't have any other things to report except to thank Laura for our meeting here, which was great. And I have I don't know about other board members, but I have really enjoyed attending these RAC meetings at the other locations. And I think we're going to be in Fountain next. I don't know if that, yeah, Fountain in September. And I think that'll be our last. We'll have done 4 this year then in other locations. Number 7 on here is any discussion items, and I don't think we have any at this point. And then I'll just do our meeting schedule. Our next meeting is in September, and I think I have a date here, but oh, 25th. September 25th at 10 a.m. And then our executive committee meetings are the first Wednesday of each month at 11, and that's a Zoom meeting. And then you can check to find out when the upcoming PPACG meeting is. I don't know if people participated on Zoom. I think it's on Wednesdays.
Yes, it's the second Wednesday. So this upcoming will be September 10th. It's at 9 a.m. at the PPACG main conference room. And it is posted by Zoom as well. So it is a hybrid meeting, and you all are most welcome to dial in or call in or come in person and sit in the audience and listen and watch. As you know, our PPACG board is made up of elected officials from all 16 municipalities that we serve. So the 3 counties plus the 13 municipalities. So it's really interesting to watch, especially as we start moving into the end of the year and the end of the year planning for the next January 1 fiscal year. So you are all always invited.
And with that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. And just to let people know, we will be visiting the Silver Key Senior Services location after. And then if people want to stay after that, we are going to possibly have lunch together. Thank you.